Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Crash, and if you're watching this on upload day, it should be the very 1st of October, or maybe the 2nd, or maybe none of them. But I just want to say I'll be dedicating this month to horror manga videos, and I want to start with an updated version of a short review that I wrote last year in a video format, so the review will be linked in the description below, but without further ado, let's talk about Uzumaki. Whenever someone thinks of horror manga, it's very likely that the first name that pops in their head is Junji Ito. Ito is well known among anime, manga, and even horror fans in general. Since 1987, he's been giving us horrific nightmares, something that he still does even till this day. But among all of his works, one stands out the most: 1998's Uzumaki, a story about a city consumed by the spiral. Uzumaki has been adapted into a live-action movie, and more recently it's being adapted into a 4-episode anime miniseries. And it seems that now, more than ever, is a good time to see what Junji Ito is all about. In Uzumaki we follow Kiri and Suichi, two citizens of Kurozu Sho, as they slowly see their town be more and more haunted by anything and everything spiral related. And that's the gist of it. So let's address point 1. Spirals are not scary, right? Well, Junji Ito rarely uses things that are scary by themselves. He generally grabs things that we take as granted and then distorts them until they are frightening, and it's just that he does here. Part of the reason to read Uzumaki is to see and discover just how much he can do with just a pattern. With 19 chapters spread along 3 volumes, eventually released in that giant omnibus we all know with an extra chapter, Uzumaki isn't necessarily a huge manga, but it's still one of the longer works of Junji Ito, as he mostly focuses on writing one-shots and one-shot compilations. And sure, Uzumaki isn't the only long work of Ito, but his non-one-shots are still the vast minority when compared to the sheer size of his bibliography. Now I'm bringing this up because it shows that he's a one-shot writer in Uzumaki. Ito's one-shots focus on having short, mysterious, and unexplainable events happening to random people. It doesn't have big, deep stories, it doesn't have complex and interesting characters. It's all about the primal, raw feeling that evokes on people who read it. Uzumaki is very much the same, with almost every chapter feeling like a self-contained one-shot, with the exception of the final couple chapters. And yes, there is a story being slowly told across all of them, but it doesn't really go much further than this town is being haunted by spirals. Sometimes there are 2 chapters in a row who might be connected, but for the most part I could show you chapters in random order and you probably would not notice it, with the exception of maybe a line of dialogue here and there. And while we do follow the same character through all of the 20 chapters, it's not like I can say that she's a complex or interesting one. It still feels very much like any other Junji Ito character. Blank slate that we can use to insert ourselves and explore the actual main character of the story, the horror. Kiri's boyfriend, Shuichi, is the only character that has a bit more going for him, and that's mostly the fact that he's the only one who seems to understand what the hell is going on. With that said, one does not read Ito's manga for complex stories or characters. We read it for the fantastic and horrific payoffs he delivers, and Uzumaki does deliver, having some of the most iconic of Ito's imagery. Each chapter is a wild and fun ride full of weird events. We start with the pretty basic ideas. The first chapter is all about a man in love with anything that has a spiral pattern, and the second chapter follows his wife, who has a deep fear of anything spiral related. These chapters are ideal to start with, since not only eases you into the idea, it also shows you just how much this hypnotizing pattern exists in your lives. You'll come back out of these 2 chapters noticing everywhere. And the 4th chapter also has one of the best page turns in the entire series. For those that may not be familiar with the term page turn, it's a technique that is very used in horror and comedy manga. The idea is to build upon something that is revealed in the next page turn. This means that it can have some seconds or even minutes, if you really don't want to change the page, to build up on your expectations and then subvert them. In horror, especially Junji Ito's horror, it can be used to let you know that the next page something horrible is gonna happen, but not tell you exactly what. So it's up to you to decide if you're feeling brave enough to see what's on the other side. This is something that's presented in pretty much every chapter of Uzumaki, and each page turn is fantastic. This is where the art style of Ito comes into play. His art style is hardly the most beautiful to look at, but it's perfect for a horror series. It's weirdly realistic, and he is known to spend hours upon hours on some of these pages, making all of them mesmerizing and haunting, with so much detail that it won't look like something out of a painting, but something disgustingly real. It calls upon a very visceral and raw feeling, and this is the strong point of Uzumaki. Pages that will most definitely stay burned into your minds forever. And everything else is pretty much just a slow build up for those reveals. Some of the chapters deal with some ridiculous ideas, some too ridiculous that just make it all too silly and feel more comedic than scary, but even those are enjoyable, and even those have some visceral pages. but it's in the final chapters that Uzumaki starts flowing more fluidly, as it develops its conclusion. It's some of the best chapters in the whole manga, and it's good to see it call back some events that had not been mentioning again. The ending, without spoiling, is not the most in-depth conclusion, but you should not expect that from Uzumaki. Junji Ito follows the mantra of Lovecraft, and his stories are not to be explained. The horror lies in the mysterious and the unknown, so it makes sense that the story concludes by keeping most things a mystery, just giving us small details of why it could have happened. Junji Ito does not use Uzumaki as a way to explore his weak points or to expand much on his strong ones. Ultimately, this is still Ito Manga 101, so if you're coming to Uzumaki expecting more, you'll probably will leave disappointed. And if you're not a Junji Ito fan or you don't like horror, this is also not going to be the manga that's going to convert you. But if you know his works and you're a fan, or if you know what to expect and that still sounds interesting to you, then you'll probably enjoy what this manga has in store. Uzumaki isn't a masterpiece, but what it does very well. And that will be it. Like I said, it was a very short review, but more horror content will be coming your way. And if you like manga in general, then ponder checking out the rest of my channel. There's 2 videos on screen that may or may not interest you. And if you watched it till here, thank you very much, and I'll see you next video.